Welcome back to Coast Vue. During the break, Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune really enjoyed that conversation, and Kyle and I talked, and it's interesting. I wish we probably ought to dedicate a full show to him if he had the time, because it seems like every time we get out the air, we continue the conversation because there's so much to talk about. Jeff is so unbelievably well connected at the Saints organization. We had a detailed conversation, for example, about Michael Thomas. It was just fascinating. So now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Roxy Condrey. First of all, good morning, Roxy. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, Roxy and her husband, Ted, are in the rental management business. They have boutique hotels, and they're in the residential real estate business. They have a lot going on. I would say the best description of them is they are real estate developers, and they have made massive contributions into particularly the Jackson County area that are really, really important, And we'll talk more about that in just a second. Hey, before we get to all the things that you guys are involved in, the update on Gulf Hills and how things are going there, et cetera. I was curious, recently we had this big dust up again with the coastal Mississippi tourism area. You had an opportunity to serve on the board for a short period of time. As I said before, when the dust settled after Milton was asked to leave, I was very convinced that we would see another dust up because we didn't really fix anything. And then, of course, Brooke Schultz, who was overwhelmingly reelected the president of the board, shortly after that, she was not reappointed by Connie Rocco, and Connie said that she was told she wanted off, even though she had just been elected the president of the board. At the end of the day, I see these all as symptoms of a bigger problem, that there needs to be some tweaks in the legislation that created the organization so that one person who can get the votes can't change the course of history for such an important regional organization. Roxy, when you saw that dust up, were you surprised?
Unfortunately, no. When I did serve for the short period of time, and there was, if you recall, I know you do, that quite a few of us, the commissioners, decided to resign all around the same time, just because we felt that there was no positive impact that we could make on the board, unfortunately, due to the structure and the way that it was running. And so it was a really hard decision. It was one that it was hard to make that, but I felt like it was the right thing to do to bring awareness to what was going on. And when we left, I was hopeful that the people that came on board, maybe that could, give a fresh start to some people that could get some change to happen. And, but I mean, like you said, there wasn't really, it's hard for someone in Hancock and Jackson County to have an impact on that board. And so unfortunately that I think, is still not resolved. But I'm hopeful that, things will continue to move in a positive direction. And I hate that this has happened. But I think, like you said, there's certainly some things that were put in place way before we got involved that need to be looked at again, just to potentially make this have the potential that it can, because it's such a strong organization. It has so much impact on the coast. They do wonderful things. And we really shouldn't be talking about, these issues. We should be talking about all the positive that they're doing. And the employees and the staff are incredible. They do such a great job. So it would be great if we could all kind of work together as a team, and it would be everyone, concentrating on the things that matter and bring value to the coast and tourism and things like that. So I'm hopeful that that can happen. I know it can. I'm just, in the short term would be great.
Well, we've got some good leaders engaged in it. And I think that you represented the kind of people that we want on that board, people who have a huge stake in tourism, and too many members of the board aren't from tourism. And that in itself is a problem. I think the makeup of the board has got to change. It's got to be more like 5 from Harrison County, 3 from the other 2. So it's more like 5-3-3. So that to get the majority of the votes, if Harrison County were to garner their 5 votes, they would still have to go over into Hancock or Jackson and get another vote. That's what regionalism is. They don't have to do that now. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I think that Greg Cronin, bank executive, I hear incredibly good things about the work that he's doing to reach out and talk to stakeholders and get things kind of at least under control for the short term, kind of calm the dust ups that occurred. Jerry St. Pé, I mean, no one will argue that Jerry, as the former CEO of Ingalls, is not exactly the right guy for the job. Here he is in his 80s, still serving the community, smart as a freaking whip. Great to see him. And Paige Roberts. Paige is very focused on a community builder. She's a problem solver. You're not going to roll over Paige. So I think the combination of Greg and Jerry and Paige and a growing number of other board members, I think we're going to start to see an awareness that there's a short-term thing we have to do, which is calm the waters, get things settled down, stay focused on the external instead of all this internal focus. And secondly, work with legislators to fix this so that we create a true regional organization. And there are a number of legislators that are incredibly engaged in this. There are some legislators, unfortunately, who have worked behind the scenes to protect the status quo, which is, as far as I'm concerned, that's unacceptable. And I hope that we'll see a growing number of legislators getting involved, getting on board with more of a proactive approach to fixing this. The other last point I'll make is legislation, when you create something like a regional organization like Coastal Mississippi, you never get it right the first time. You always have to go back and make tweaks. So this was an important step. It was a recommendation we made after the Governor's Commission report was issued for tourism after Hurricane Katrina, that we needed a regional organization. Took a few years to make it happen. We made it happen. And there's always a need to go back and make tweaks. That's all this is about. So a lot of good people engaged in it. I think we'll find some resolution that will serve us over the long haul. And thank you for, first of all, I know it's tough to resign, but at the moment, that sort of mass resignation that occurred, I think it was important. It did create a lot of attention to say, wait a minute, if someone like Roxy Condrey is stepping down, that's not a good thing. What's going on? So anyway, that's where we are. Thank you for allowing me to ask you that question. I appreciate it. So if you were to tell someone what your business is, I did my little spiel at the beginning, but how do you describe the business you're in if you're in the elevator with someone going up a couple of floors?
I think real estate sums it up. I mean, we do, through the years, we've gotten into a lot of different facets of it. We're very involved with the hotel industry now, but it started when we were just in sales. So had a sales brokerage is where it started, got into HOAs, eventually got into property management, where we manage scattered sites, so homes for other people, apartment complexes, condos, things like that. And then got into the hotel business. Now it's been since 2009, and have grown that side of the business quite a bit. We have 5 hotels now that we have in our Rain Travel Collection portfolio, and they're all boutique, and it's really been an exciting industry to be in. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and they really all work together. I mean, we can take someone from visiting and falling in love to the town to renting a place to buying a home and stay with them for years to come. I mean, I've got clients that, 10, 15 years later, we're still here working together. So it's great. We kind of start at the beginning of short term and go all the way through the long term.
Well, it's been fascinating watching it. It's been fascinating staying in touch with you over the last couple of years. Watching this sort of growth in the boutique business, your partnership with Joe Cloyd over at the Roost, he creates the Hemingway. You have this back office and operations management abilities that you've built upon that. And so as you continue to add, I would suspect more boutique hotels in the future, you have the mechanism to be able to manage them, and it's high tech and it's been very successful. And that's exciting to see that continuity in your organizations and your ability to manage them, isn't it?
It's been great. I mean, certainly having multiple properties has opened up opportunities for us to offer additional services, which is what we want to do for our guest experience. And we have one top level management staff that does operate for all 5 of the hotels. And then we have certain people who work for just individual hotels as well. But that definitely helps. And really, even on the real estate side, a lot of that is overlapping as well with the back house of the operations, the property management, the sales side. It also gets involved with some of the hotel side. So it really all works together really, really well. And then we've gotten into development just as we're developing the hotels. And so it really has been nice to have such strong team members that we have been working with for years. I mean, I couldn't do it without our whole team, and I'm fortunate to work with some really great people that are super talented and skilled. So we're lucky in that.
You're a good leader, and I'm not surprised to hear you describe it the way you just described it, because you're only going to be as strong as your weakest link. And to be in the business that you're in, every link has to be strong. It has to be. And when you have strong links, you want to keep them. You want to keep them in the chain. And you've done a good job at that. I mean, your core team. It's through some very, very trying times through COVID, et cetera. Your core team has stayed together. Hey, listen, when we come back on the other side, we'll get the latest. We'll finish this part of the conversation, and then we'll get the latest on Gulf Hills, an exciting new development. Well, not new, but to them it is very new and very important, and going to be a great contributor to tourism in coastal Mississippi. We'll see you after this break.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. You know, one of the things I enjoy most about this show, I say it very regularly, and that is that I get to know some amazing leaders in coastal Mississippi. And Roxy Condrey, who owns Rain Residential with her husband Ted, is no exception to that rule. It's always a smart, very crisp conversation, and I appreciate that. Anything else you want to say? I didn't want to leave this whole notion that about strong, links in the chain and you keeping your core team together through some difficult times. I didn't want to leave that without giving you an opportunity to respond.
No, I think we touched on it. I'm just kind of excited. We did get through COVID, and it was an interesting time, and to our surprise was extremely busy, and, the coast just flourished during that time. And we had kind of touched on it beforehand, but it's been interesting to see how we were able to kind of move out of that stage into another stage, and we've stayed strong. Our hotels have been very busy. The real estate market has been really strong, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming months. But I have confidence that, the coast is going to do well, even with the downturning market in some areas. It seems that we're still seeing strong numbers, even from the sales side all the way through to the hotel side. So our staff, we've been prepared, for anything. We like to be, we're small enough where change is something we can really move with the change. And I think that's part of what has allowed our company to succeed during these times, is to be able to pivot when things change. So we're ready if it does, but so far it doesn't appear that we're going to have any large downturns that are going to change things in any drastic way. So I'm excited about that.
And that's one of the things about Ocean Springs being such a hot market, one of the hottest markets in the state of Mississippi, is that it may be able to stand the test of time even as mortgage rates go up, and you're starting to see new home starts are down, and you're starting to see a slight dip in real estate sales, et cetera. That when you have a strong market that has a lot of things working for it, you can somehow, some in many ways actually overcome what those trends are. And that's certainly been your experience so far, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. We actually had a meeting this morning before this, and with my sales agents, and I was looking at the stats right beforehand because, I read all these articles on national real estate groups, and they are very negative. I mean, they're just all bracing for a market that's going to turn, or has already in many markets. And so it's been interesting to pull our data and look at it very specifically. And we do have some data points like absorption rate, which is ultimately like days on market, how long houses are taking to sell. And for instance, that had dipped down to numbers, honestly, I had not seen. I've been in the business, it's like 17 years. And we were seeing days on market below 30 days pretty consistently for a long period of time. And that was not normal. And 1 month, held strong. Just starting in about February, we saw that graph start moving up, and it has continually gone up. But when I actually dug in, it's only gone up to 2 months, which is pretty good still, but it looks drastic when you look at it from a graph perspective, because we just had this solid line forever on days on market. And then you see this uptick and you're like, oh man, things, are getting bad. But when you look at it compared to way back, 2 months on the market is really not bad at all. And our other data points, average price sales, things like that are all strong, higher than last year. Our average price for a house that have sold in Ocean Springs is up. We do have more listings coming on the market, but our sales are not really low. I mean, the supply could be better, but it's all very positive numbers still. So if the impact's coming, it hasn't truly hit yet in any big way.
I used a lot of data when I was a CEO. I love graphs because graphs can help you see trends. Sounds like your mind works the same way. Hey, listen, Roxy, what's the latest on the historic? And when I say historic, when you talk about Ocean Springs or Mississippi Gulf Coast history, you and I talked to some extent about that the last time we talked. Gulf Hills has to have one of the richest histories of any location in coastal Mississippi. It's got to be exciting to be bringing that back.
Oh, it's been the funnest project I've ever worked on. It is incredible. Like the history there, it just never ends. And so every single time we dig in and like talk to someone new, we find out a new story that I can't believe even existed. And it's like wild things, from just movie stars you would never expect to come. I've talked about many of them. I mean, most people know Elvis, but Judy Garland, stayed there, Marilyn Monroe, the Al Capone stories. So like there's all these fun stories about these different movie stars. One was, I didn't even realize one of the owners was actually arrested for Watergate. So that's something I'm learning new information about. But we've had a couple of people that were, lifeguards a ways back. I just had someone that actually works for the county that we're going to talk to more that was involved with the hotel like 40 years ago that has a lot of stories that I didn't even know about the time when Elvis was coming, and he's got some kind of inside scoop there. So we have big plans to meet with a lot of these people that have all of this, these history stories, information, and to try to document it so we can get it in a form where people can actually see it. Because it's not just Gulf Hills. I mean, it's the whole it's not just the hotel, it's the whole neighborhood, but it's also the coast in general.
Yeah.
And a lot there, and it goes back to the 20s, and a lot that's not documented. So
let's do Roxy, what we need to do, we're kind of out of time for now, but what's the current time on the schedule for when it's going to be finished, real quick?
March, actually.
Wow. Excellent. Well, what we'll do, we'll come back real soon, and we'll do a whole show about the rebirth of Gulf Hills. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
You are amazing. Thank you for being such a good friend to me and to Coast Vue. And have a great day, and we will see you on Monday.
Awesome. Thank you. Talk to you later.